You see that?
Hold on. Take a little walk.
In the bag.
In the back?
Oh, in the bag. Do you not see this? There it is.
Oh, what's this? What's
So,
this thing?
well, so I was patrolling around earlier today and I saw someone fiddling with the ATM. When I went up against it, I noticed there was something jammed in there. Now,
Really?
when I first came across it, I'm like, okay, well, this is just a random oddity. However, call after call after call, it seems like there's a lot of individuals that are just kind of sticking these things in the ATMs. Now, that's kind of where something kind of went off in my head. So let me put it this way. We're going to have officers that are going to be responding to ATMs. Now, I don't think inherently the assumption that each and every ATM is going to have one of these jammed in there is reasonable. Especially, I don't think it's reasonable that anytime we see someone buy an ATM, the presumption should be that people are using this device. Now, this kind of runs to the point that I was trying to make in the meeting over there, but I don't know how much of it was necessarily picked up on. Is my concern, and this concern is based on history in other departments, is there's always going to be officers that internally want to solve mysteries, right? And
Yes.
that if it does not run its course at a proper pacing, we may learn quite a bit, but not have anything inherently actionable. And where I've kind of landed on is that I think sooner than later, we as command officers should be instructed to, by circumstance, if they happen upon things, to notate it, but leave it at that. They can bring it to the attention of command. Command then should sign off on a potential investigation. Oh. And only if we have signed off on said investigation do we as a collective start looking into those things. If we believe it is a problem that supersedes the issues that we see on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so you want to escalate for permission to investigate.
Correct.
Basically.
Yes.
Okay, we could do that, and I think we could even do a report type on the MDT so we have visibility on any outstanding.
Yeah.
Potentially, before they're allowed to start an investigation, they have to do like a proper investigation. Maybe we put SOPs on it where if something meets these basic requirements of like being outside the daily scope of like what we do on a day-to-day basis,
Yes.
you need to file this type of report, and then we review them in that category, and then when they're approved, we type on them, and then they assign them to us, and then when we're done, we just change the report type. We just in the drop down up there to an investigation report, so they know that it's like okay to investigate now.
Precisely.
We comment on it or something.
I think on one hand that this kind of philosophy may not ring well at first with some officers, because understandably people individually are going to want to investigate things, right? But if we have multiple officers investigating everything, and next thing you know, we got attempts to bust doors open and all that doesn't really bring value, right? It's exciting, but it divides our resources. But instead, if we're signing off on specific investigations, we can go as deep as we need to and possibly shut down wherever, whatever Kirk might be. For example, with these things, whoever's issuing them, maybe we can shut their ass down, and there's a actual feeling of success instead of us targeting down, civilians in hopes that we might find something.
And there's also the thing too, so many people just, for lack of a better word, prematurely ejaculate in investigations. And that's just the truth of the matter. They shoot too hard and too fast, and they miss the target, And
Mm-hmm.
what ends up happening is they ruin the investigation for every single officer that tries to touch it
Yes.
after because of fruit of the poisonous tree and other different legal principles that
Yep.
basically show a pattern of harassment that then diminish any evidence that we bring forth from those officers in the future.
Yep.
And the other pieces that become an issue are when the police force looks like it's targeting a group from the legal perspective, we also get diminished. Listen, the biggest thing in tooling that we have is that an officer's word is held to a higher standard in the court,
Mm.
but that only hits as long as we aren't proven that our word should mean less, meaning that our credibility has been attacked, and then we lose that. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the biggest hit when trying to prosecute,
Yeah.
in my
Absolutely.
opinion.
Absolutely. And I think this kind of goes hand in hand with if we're taking up like 12 separate investigations with different officers taking lead on all of those, it just, there's no value there. Um, um, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
we're 100% agreement on all that. I'd say like let's tell the DC and Knox and Lane maybe to work on documentation for us
mm,
because we don't need to be doing that, and just tell
agreed.
them to get something for us to view, I
Yeah.
suppose.
I think maybe an SOP slide indicating, what it means to find things per circumstance. And if those per circumstance leads to, hey, there's something here, that's where the command signed off and opening of an investigation comes into play. And I think that's going to give a lot of people here something to really bite on. Because at that point, we can assign officers that are interested in it to, actually focus up on that, and for us to monitor it.
I
You know,
agree, and maybe something we can do to start and see how it goes is like, um, maybe we make it so that we assign one of the command members as like the supervisor, and they
mm,
have to tag them when they try to take like a physical action based on an investigation
I
for
like that.
approval. It needs to do that in like an approval process, and that might actually with the way we have the MDT done and the way we can see assigned tasks and all that, it makes things just easier, right?
Yes. Yeah.
To be able to do that and do it
Mm-hmm.
effectively instead of stuff getting lost in the weeds.
Yeah. I think I like that a lot. I think that could also allow us to forego any kind of immediate detective unit or anything like that. I mean, maybe down the line, if some people run these investigations pretty successfully, that may point in that direction. But why? The way I see it is, anytime there's a detective unit put up, um, it becomes very divisionary, right? But if officers know they can work together on an investigation in a very, you know, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to someone necessarily being a command member overwatching them, but I don't think
Problem
people need to run around with detective vests or whatever. At least this
No,
early on.
no, I don't think so. And I've never seen a detective group on any police department that I've looked like effectively do good. I've seen it do a lot of harm. And that's the problem, and that's the fear that I have is that the problem is that oftentimes you have to put someone in charge who has an investigative mindset, and those people generally are very logical and clinical
Mm,
instead of and they get lost in the weeds of like trying to write the perfect report and the perfect investigation, and those people just are not capable of being able to put the fucking brakes on a lot of times. And that's my
yeah.
fear
Yeah.
with any detective agency is that the people that you have to put in charge of that, what ends up happening is they just don't have the ability to even hold themselves back.
Yeah. I have, yeah, I've had the same experience. Um
Yeah, so that's my only worry, but if we can figure that out, I'm good. But maybe the way to do that is by putting people who like me and yourself as like a kind of not necessarily a gate, but checks and balance on it.
well, I
I
mean,
think
with a
non-investigators need to check and balance what the investigators do. Probably if we ever implement something like that.
well, agreed. I mean, going back to this like ATM thing, let's say enough circumstance builds up and we were to approve something on these like ATM devices, right? Um, we have the ability in this room. You bring everyone in here, come to give a breakdown. If we think we don't have enough at even the early stage, and these guys are like stage 5, that's where we could jump in and be like, well, where the fuck is this stuff? How are you jumping all the way to this conclusion, right? And So effectively allowing us to collectively sort of train them on expectations as they're making their way forward. This is
Yeah, I think we agree with each other. I think
yep.
we're both on the same page, 100%. So
Okay. Maiden, thank you the 15 months.
I that's the thing I worry about is people like leaning into things like that card reader there and just putting it into overdrive,
Yeah.
knowing the answer for every stop that they make,
Yeah, that's
the
not
minute they
good.
take an ATM card reader and putting them in cuffs, just because they
Yeah.
found someone in the region with that instead of doing a proper investigation.
I think it's I'm going to be honest, I think it's a little bit too easy for us to even discover these. I find these out of happenstance. And so if I found them the way that I did, I expected a lot of these are going to be found.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. So
Yeah.
yeah, leave that with me, and
Mm,
I'll come back to you on that one. But I
yeah.
think you're right to kind of try to head that off
Mm-hmm.
and other things like that. Those are
Yeah.
good points.
Yeah. Okay. Easy.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, penal code will be fixed up hopefully in a couple hours.
Ooh,
Probably by
okay.
this evening. Yeah.